want to do a video and post a question that is very non-secular. Is God punishing this country? Is God punishing America? And if you look here in Deuteronomy 28, it's very clear that if you obey God and you follow His commandments, the Lord will bless you. And if you don't, He'll curse you. And so it's either a blessing or it's a curse. You get with God. You're either being blessed by Him because you're doing the right thing, or you're being cursed by Him for doing the wrong thing. Okay, and the blessings are pretty clear. You'll be blessed in the city, and you'll be blessed in the country. In other words, your cities won't be in decay and ruin like ours are. Like right now, look at some of our cities are going into bankruptcy. Counties are being dissolved. States are on the brink. Our federal government's on the brink, for that matter. It says, fruit of your womb will be blessed, and the crops of your land, and the young of your livestock, the calves of your herd, and the lambs of your flock. If you look how many abortions are taking place in America today. Look how many children are being murdered. People will say, "Oh, it's not murder. It's not murder." Call it what you want. It's murder. I'm saying, look how many children are being murdered, and look at your basket and your kneading trough will be blessed, saying, more or less, you'll have plenty of food. Look at the prices. Look at the prices going up in this country. I tell you, food prices have doubled, in the last 10 years, just like everything. Gas prices doubled, food prices doubled, so on and so forth. You'll be blessed when you come in and blessed when you go out. I don't know what you call our situation today in terms of economic, militarily governing. Our government's making some of the worst decisions. They're making nothing but foolish decisions. The Lord will grant that the enemies who rise up against you, you will be defeated before you. They will come at you from one direction, but flee from you. They will come at you from one direction, but flee from you in seven. So if you look, I don't see that happening from us today. I see us going against our enemies and us fleeing in seven directions. The truth is, we went to Iraq, spent 10 years there, burned billions of dollars, reaped nothing but heartache and death, and now we're in Afghanistan, mired down, bogged down, and we're the ones that are having to pull back. We're the ones who are having to go through these incredible economic troubles, plus the loss of life. The Lord will send a blessing on your barns and on everything you put your hand to. The Lord your God will bless you in the land He is giving you. It's just very clear. It's just very. If you go through everything, it's not happening to us today. We're in a depression. Economically, we're in a depression. Look around you. Our currency isn't worth anything anymore. And basically, the curses are the opposite of the blessings. Like I was just talking about. And then if you go down here, it goes into a little more detail about how you'll be struck with disease, how you'll be destroyed with famine, how you'll be defeated before your enemies. It talks about how you'll be afflicted with all kinds of, that's why it says boils, tumors, festering sores, and itch, and from which you cannot be cured. It kind of sounds a little bit like an STD, one of those. And think of how many things like that afflict Americans today. Madness, blindness, confusion of mind. They've madness, blindness, and confusion of mind. Boy, I tell you, there's some representatives in D.C. need to read that and say, that sounds awfully familiar. You'll be unsuccessful in everything you do. Day after day, you'll be oppressed and robbed. No one will rescue you. You'll be pledged to be married to a woman, but another will take a ravisher. Cheating in this country. This kind of drama, the Jerry Springer drama, just lives on and on. People sowing but not reaping, working hard but not yielding. That's what this is talking about. Look at the taxation taking over this country. You start something and you're so quashed by the oppression of the taxation system and the other regulations that come along. Lots of people start up businesses and can't even begin to make it. And people think that's normal. It's like, no, it's not normal. It says your donkey will be forcibly taken from you and will not be returned. Your sheep will be given to your enemies and no one will rescue them. In other words, you're going to be robbed. You're going to be getting robbed left and right. Because people are dishonest. And I'm not saying everyone in this country is dishonest. I'm not saying everybody. But I think that there's enough people in this country that are totally godless and have nothing but contempt for God, or deny he exists, you know, which is just, oh my goodness, I could talk for hours and hours and hours how silly it is to on you just burying your head in the sand and saying there is no God, there is no God, there is no God. I could just go. I could pose argument after argument after argument of how it makes no sense to believe there isn't a God, none whatsoever, and people will continue to bury their heads in the sand because their hearts are stubborn. You know, but you'll notice the list of curses here, they are pretty long. I'm still in them, you know, and then it ends here. And in the end of these curses, if you'll note, the last thing God does to you, Lord will scatter you among the nations from one end of the earth to the other. And then you will worship other gods, gods of wisdom, and so on and so forth. You know, you will be dispersed as a nation. You will lose the right to govern yourself because of how wicked you are. And if you look, people think that can't happen here. Oh yes, it can. I assure you, it can happen here. You think because you're an American that it can't happen? I assure you, it can happen to this country. I absolutely will. I tell you what, I don't know what you want me to say to make me believe you, but I'm telling you, it can happen to this country. And in all honesty, I really think that's where we're heading. I think we're heading for this last step here. I think a lot of the other curses have already taken place. I think they're in effect, and I think that because people are being hard-hearted toward God, I think there's a very good chance we're heading straight for that. Scattered among the nations. The UN roll in and take over part of the country to secure nuclear weapons. Our other good friends, China and Russia and all these others, sweep in from another side. I'll tell you what, our leaders sell us out every day. Our leaders are not loyal Americans. Let's just be honest. They're not. They're not loyal Americans. They've already sold you out to corporations and to other governments and so on and so forth. They'll think they're safe. Oh man, I've got a deal with this country here. Once America falls, as it's falling, I'm gonna be gone. I'm the old Benedict Arnolds of our society, and so it's just really I really think that unless we turn back, unless we repent, I really just don't see us. All these things, the symptoms that are besetting our nation, and there are tons of them. It could go on, and I could go on, and I could go on with the joblessness, or the lack of manufacturing in this country, the bad trade practices, our international overstretching in terms of not just diplomatically but militarily. We're making such bad decisions at every level. It's just, absolutely nuts, and really a lot of our meddling and a lot of the things that have happened in this country really started out in the 60s. The whole drug, sex, rock and roll and everything. People started living like a fool. They started throwing God out of schools. There's no standard. There's no ethical standard. We don't teach our kids what's right and wrong anymore because, well, what's really right and what's really wrong? Just be good. Be good. Yeah, that'll do. Just be good kids. But let's not teach them anything. Let's not teach them the Bible. Oh no, that might offend an atheist, or that might offend a Buddhist, or that might offend a. It's like, yeah, we're in a very precarious position because America's in the midst of an identity crisis. It doesn't know where it comes from, and it doesn't know who it is. And I'll tell you where we came from. We came from people who believed in the Lord Jesus Christ. They believed in God. They honored the Bible. And I tell you what, that you reject. I tell you what, if you think you can go ahead and find a nation like ours was founded against the most powerful empire at the time, without the help of God, well, that's a very foolish thing to believe. And we were founded. I firmly believe God helped us found this nation. I firmly believe He assisted us in its foundation. And I'm not saying we've done everything right. But I'm saying I think we definitely said. I know we said whenever we founded this nation. Whenever we swore in President Washington, I tell you, we basically, all of Congress, everybody basically spent the whole day in church, more or less, going in and out and holding services and thanking God. So it's like, I'll tell you what, they understood that God helped them, and they honored God. And you turn around a couple hundred years later, and then you say, who's God anyways? We got here by our own strength. We got here by our own. And I tell you what, it stinks. It stinks. It's something that God will not tolerate for very long. So, at any rate, I just wanted to point this out. And it's frightening to me how few people have even read the Bible. I mean, they know, like a lot of, it's just so many people have, no knowledge of the Bible, none whatsoever. It's just very frightening, very and I don't mean frightening as in I mean frightening for them. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm concerned too, but in the end, I do know that the Lord, the Lord will take care of me. The Lord will take care of my family. And live or die, I'm God's. This life is temporary. You know what I'm saying? It's like so, as long as you're, people say the devil wants to kill you. No, 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 no. The devil doesn't want to kill you. He wants to kill people whose souls aren't prepared. That's the people he wants to kill. If your soul's prepared, the devil really doesn't want you to die. In all honesty, he's only going to come against you to the point of such and such. But so, just something to think about.